Okay, so we were learning JSP standard actions, so, right? So we just started with the first one, which is JSP forward. Anyways, it is the one which is forward will include the main JSP actions which is used. Internally, we'll be using param and all. We'll just see these two, and then we'll go to beans section, right? So yesterday we created a page which is page 11, and we had page 12, second page we have created. So here we gave a simple forward, right, JSP forward. So let me just delete everything first. Now here is simple JSP which JSP standard action which we can use, right? Where what happens here is, so whenever I call this, it will directly move from the existing page to the next resource, right? So that is what happens if you use a JSP forward over here, right? So now let me just run this. So yesterday when we just gave this, right, it didn't started, if you remember, because we didn't started or restarted this Tomcat, right? And this was not deployed perfectly. So let me just clean it up and deploy it. So here let me just go to 30, page 11 maybe, right? So when you click on 11, you can see this is page 12. Right? It immediately went to page 12, right? Because we have used a direct page 12. So that is our forward page which you can actually move, right? So in this way you can also send the query string to the next page. So the query string here is nothing but which we have seen yesterday, which is a param, right? We have a next JSP standard action called JSP param. Okay? The JSP param should be used inside this JSP forward. So JSP param. So this parameter will automatically become the query string for the resource you are calling area, which is page. Right? So param, I can give some value and name. Let us say I'm just giving name as some uname and value as something ABC. Right? So here, how can we handle that is the same way which we used to do before, which is like we start over with string. Let us say I want to get the username uname equal to request or get parameter. So for this page it will be a normal query string which you are getting, but this JSP standard action query string will be basically hidden one. Right? So let me do uname. Right? So that is what we have given uname, and we have taken the same. So once it is done, let's break it up and just say welcome uname. Right. So that's what we have to do, which is page 12 and the string we have and welcome so application. Okay. So now let us run this page now. Let's see what happens. So let me refresh this page. Now you can see I'm on page 11 actually, but you can see that the page 12 has been loaded, and from page 11 whatever we are sending from here it went to page 12. Right? So this is one way that you can actually send the details from this page to other page. Now basically how it happens is we will be calling this page 11 from some other page. So let us create a real-time situation. So let me go to index here. Now in this index, so I'm going to call page 11, that is right. In page 11, I'm going to send the username and password to page 11. So whenever it comes over here, I want to retrieve these things and I want to pass the same username after validation to this data set. So let us do that part, which is, I'll take this tool, which is user equal request dot get parameter, where our first one called its ename, right, and the next one we have password, we request dot get parameter of password, which is we have name and password. When I click on go in this next, so it will come to my page 11. So in page 11, so we are just reading up whatever the data we are actually giving up in index. So the same data we'll have to pass it over here, let us say, right? So what we are going to do here is, in value, just use the expression, right, which is user, right? So this will take up the user name parameter, and we can go for one more para where I can use password, right, and the name too. Maybe I can, if you want to pass the same key, right, you can directly keep it, right, user and password. So come over here and you have your username, and you have your password is equal to request dot get parameter of your password. So welcome, you have this, and just say okay. So here we are actually printing up the username password in page 2. Okay. Let us run this page now. Now what is that we are here is, I'm using the same JSP standard action called forward actually. So what I'm going to do here is, I'm just taking from index, I have a username and I have a password field, and I have a button called go. When I click on go, it will come over to page 11 because I'm calling page 11 over. Right? It will come to page 11. So in page 11, so this is like, a validation page as such, right? In page 11, I'm just reading the username and password. So whatever we are getting from index, right? And the same details, we are just passing it on to the second, which is the next page, which is page 12. Right? And in page 12, we are reading these parameters as a normal query string which we have. So let's go back to index page. So here, so let's give some name over here. Click on go. Now you can see it actually went to page 11 basically, but internally you can see the query string is there only with page 11. But internally it went to page 12, right? Whatever we are actually sending to that page, which is this query string, and it got read in our page 12. So that is how you can actually read up your using your JSP forward action. The forward action is similar to what we used to do in send redirect. It will directly go to the next JSP. Right? So these are two standard actions which we have forward and parallel. So let's go to the next one, which is Ujjwala.
So what is the difference between send direct and forward?
What is the difference between
Send direct and forward?
No, they do the same task actually.
So which one is better to use? There must be some significance, right?
Yeah, significance in the sense, if you are going to use only HTML, right? If you are going to use more of HTML, then you can go for request.send redirect. Okay. But
Okay,
if
for
you,
HTML. Okay. Mhm.
yeah, and if you are using JSP rather, right? Because see, whenever you're creating even Java website, right? You will be having combination of both actually. You will be having
Right.
HTML pages and right. So obviously, if
Yeah.
it is a HTML page, sometimes you may not use this, but there is a feature that you can use, and it all depends on which one to choose, right? But both the same
Mhm.
task, right? Send redirect and send redirect is something which is normally there for in HTML, and JSP
Mhm.
guys, Java guys, they have provided some actions called forward, using which you can also do the same task as send redirect is doing.
Mhm. So mostly HTML is considered as a lighter version, right, than JSP?
Yes, you can go for you can go for send redirect rather. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just asking. And
That's
one
it.
more
That's
question
it.
is,
Yeah.
is that can you show how to include an image on the page?
How to include?
What
Yes,
do
I'll do
you
that. I'll do.
image? Yeah.
I'll take an image. Sure. I'll do that.
Yeah. Thank you.
No issues. Okay. So yeah, I'll show you the include of image also from what. Right? So this JSP after the JSP. So we have let's see the next one itself, which is JSP include itself, right? Okay, let me just create again two pages, rather one page, which is my theme. JSP. Okay. So just say this is my page. It's 30. Okay. So here, what I'm going to do here is, so I'm going to use the JSP action element of something called include. Now this include is something which works same as we have in a page directory, right? In page directory, what we used to do, we used to take page directory, include directive, and we used to give file name. Here include directory, you have to give a page name. It can be HTML or JSP, anything, right? Now here let me add the header.jsp. If you remember, we already have this header.jsp, which is common for our applications, right? So here let me add one more tag, which is something like page 13 maybe, right? So here I'm going to replace it. So this is my header message. So page 13. Now here let us say I'm going to write something called, this is 13 content. But here you can actually add a header. Right? So I'm going to add one more JSP include, that is a footer, right? Which I already have a footer with, right? So let's break it up. Which is my header and footer, .jsp. You have to provide an actual resource file name for this, right? So you can actually add up your header and footer using your JSP include, right? Now so let's run up this 13 page. Right? You can see the header and footer are same. Now you can click on 9, it will go to 9, 10 and 13. Right? So the header is same, we just took the menus as such, right? We can actually choose. So that is how we can actually use include. Yes, there is a difference that, if you want to choose these actions, right? So it will be working completely on JVM, and if you choose HTML, sometimes you don't need. But anyways, if you are writing a JSP page, right? Even if you are using send redirect or this, right? Anyways, it is going to convert to servlet, and then it is going to be a buffer. Right? There won't be any change actually. That's why the flow will be the same, right? So that is how it will be. So that's why you can actually choose on anything. If you want to choose a direct send direct, you can actually choose on that, right? But yes, Java is also providing some actions which you can choose rather using HTML components, right? That is what it is. And this is particularly in page only, which is your the JSP pages rather, right? Not in servlets. You cannot use this standard actions of JSP standard actions in servlets. But in servlets, you can use send redirect, right? We have already used that, right? So this is how we can actually use include. Right? Now let's go to the next topic as such. Okay, so I'll show you the include of images and so many files, other files and things. Ujjwala. Okay, I'll just let us just continue with this. I'll show you images and parts more. Right? Yeah. So here, so that is about the standard actions. So the next standard action which we are going to learn is Java beans. Now, before the starting up with the Java beans, let us just see what exactly is the Java bean. So this is a very important topic as such. So, but it will be a very simple if you can understand more right way. Now, Java beans are normal classes as such, right? So there are three qualifiers which you can actually make a class and qualify them as a bean. The first condition of a Java bean is this class should have a default constructor. Default constructor in the sense no argument constructor, right, which is the default one, and then it should be serializable. And the third one, very important one, is for the variables which you are actually, for the variables which you want to move on, should have getters and setters. Right? So these three parameters will make a class, right, or will qualify a class to use as a bean. So what is a bean actually? So bean is something which is considered as a reusable component, software component as such, right? You write one class and you can actually reuse the same component across different pages. Now till now what we have seen is, so we have seen maybe a session where we can actually save some data and move about and move across to different pages, or one page session, or across different things. But in this Java bean, the specialty is, right, you can actually save multiple objects itself in one class or one object, right? It actually encapsulates many objects into one, so that whenever you go to many JSPs or many resources, right, you can actually read them as a single entity. That's our main usage of Java bean, right? So normally, let's start with a very simple example, which is, first let us see how will be the Java bean class, right? Let me create a class over here. Let us say I have a class. Let me call it as CLS, maybe bean1. Now, as I said, it should have default constructor. So if you leave it as it is, it will have a default constructor, or if you want to exclusively mention it, you can actually mention it up, right? No worries in that, right? Which is public and default constructor. Okay? So that tomorrow if anyone wants to override this constructor or overload this constructor, they can do, but they have to maintain the default constructor as such. So for that you can actually define it. So after this, the second point was, it should be serializable class. Now how can we make a class serializable? You can just make you can implement that class with serializable interface, which is java.io serializable interface. So this will make this class serializable. Why? Because we are going to use this class in a JSP site. So when you are going to use this class in JSP, which means you have to make sure that this class is convertible as a buffer. Now when a class can convert into buffer by JVM whenever it implements some marker interface. And what is the marker interface which you can use is serializable. When you use serializable interface into this class can be converted from an object to buffer, which is needed by JSP. Right? Now that is the second thing we have. And the next thing is the variable part, right? The main part, which is data holders as such, right? So let us say I have two variables, which is private, let's say int some ID, let us say the default value is 0, and you have private, let us say string. I have very simple, let us say this is name, or let us say this is username, something. Right? I'm just taking two examples here, which is, let us say I have an ID which is user ID and employee ID, let us say, and employee name, let us say. Right? Now I have to create some getters and setters for this. So we have already seen getters and setters in our encapsulation concept, right? It is the same thing. So getters and setters are the methods, normal methods we write, using which we can actually modify the private variables data from outside world, right? Because this is ID and username, you can see I have intentionally mentioned it as a private. Why? Because so we can't make these two variables accessible from outside world. But yes, if you want to give access, we'll be writing getters and setters. So you can just go to source, click on, you have generate getters and setters, select these two, and OK. Right, so this will create a getters and setters for both the variables wherever we have selected. So we have a get ID, set ID, and username, get username, and set username. Right. Why we need this is whenever we haven't started any using bean, right? We just started a class which can be capable of using as a bean. So this class, if it is capable of using as a bean, so this class can be considered as a bean class, Java bean class. Right? That was I have taken, which is a normal bean class, which is CLSB1. Now basically how we can actually instantiate and how we can actually use this is we all know that. So let me create a class now, CLS main. Right. So in this, let us say I have a main method. Catch. Right. So in this, how we can actually create use that is, let us say I'm using this bean1, that's obj is equal to name. Normally I'm just showing how we can actually modify the data of the parameters or variables which you have in this class. So this is the same pattern being followed by bean. Now how do we use that? We say obj dot, let us say set ID. Let us take an example ID. I'm just setting some ID to the variable. Right? The same way whenever we use bean, it internally does this setting, and whenever it gets dot, you have get ID, you can just print that. Okay. Now when you run this class as a application, now you can see you have set an data and you actually retrieve the same data. So we are not touching the direct variable here. So rather we are touching the getters and setters to modify the data and retrieve the value of the data. Okay. So the same thing happens in bean. Right? Now let's write a very simple bean and we'll see how exactly we can use that. Right? Let me close all. Now let me open or let me create a JSP first, which is on page 14. JSP. And let me create a bean class, not a very simple bean class, one more. Let me call it as CLS bean 2. So in this class, I'm not going to write anything, rather I'll just write one method, let us say, which is public. Let me just say it's int and just say get sum. and I'll be using some two variables for int a comma int b. Right? I'm using this in some other way, right? Which is return, let us say a plus b. Right? I just gave a very simple method. Let us see how it works from our bean. Right? Now, in order to use a bean, this is a structure which you have to follow, which is you have a standard action of JSP called use bean. Right? Use bean is a standard action. From here, the first attribute which you have for use bean is ID. So this ID is nothing but, let's compare this with our main which we have created just now. Now this ID in bean which we have taken is same as the object name you are going to create. Right? Let me give the same name which is obj here. And then you have to mention for which class you have to you are going to use it as a bean. So for that you have to give an attribute called class. So in this class you have to give the complete path of the class. What is the complete path? You have to take up your package name, right? And you have to give the class name as p2. This is a complete path which you have to give for a class, right? Now this will actually create a p, and there is one more attribute of this, which is you have something called scope. You can say, right? Scope. Now the scope is nothing but, so you will have page scope, request, session and application. If you remember, when we actually learned something called page implicit object, right? Page context implicit object. So page context was same as the session, but page context we used in different ways, 4 ways, which is application, page, request and session. Even this bean acts as a same as our page context, but in a different way, right? So by default, if you don't give any scope, it will be page, right? Let's not give anything, or you can just mention page scope, and once we understand this, then we will understand the scope part better, right? Now here we have created a very simple bean, right, for the class called serious bean. So let me just close up here itself, right? Which means you have already created something called object of this class called bean, right? Now let me use that. So I'll write a simple snippet here. Let us say I want a sum of some int s is equal to, I can use this object as, you can see I'm getting the get sum, right? As soon as you give object, right, you can see that it created an object of sales bean 2, and I'm able to access the get sum. Let me give some 25 and some 75 here, right? This will get me some, and then let me just write expression over here which should be yes. Just say some result something, and just give some plus over here, right? So this is a very simple way where you can actually create a bean now, which means you have created a Java bean, and I'm using the bean object to do some task. Very simple task, right? That is what after. Now let us run this, clean it up, restart the server. Right? And then let's restart the browser too. Open this browser. Is 13? Was that 13? Okay, 14. Right? Now you can see some result is 100 directly, right? That is what we got while using Java. So till this part, you guys have any doubt? Yeah, two things before that. So I didn't give it as serializable, right? But even then, it is taking the output. Why? How? Because internally, even if you give it or not, let me just give implements serializable, right? Implement serializable here. Now, if I go back and run it again, you have a page 14, right? Right, you can see the same here. So what happens here is, yes, there are 3 rules which you have to follow, in which even if you don't use serializable, right, it will actually convert internally. I mean, this clean class has capability of converting this class as a serializable class, and then it will create an object. Right? Yeah. Now go ahead with your questions. Yeah. Yeah, Johnny, you guys have some questions here. Go on.
So that was what mainly I was about to ask. But anyway, so since we don't have any variables, that's why there is no getter and setter.
Yes.
And any constructor.
Exactly. No, constructor anyways. Even if you mention here, that's fine. So that's why I just started with a very controversial a single method one. You can just have a public. That's fine. Right? Even if you give this, let's go back, restart the server. Okay, it got restarted, reloaded. Let's go. You're getting that. Refresh this, you will get the same result. Right? Because if I don't give, you don't have to explicitly mention your constructor. Okay? So we just gave it as. Now, let us say, let's improve the same concept over here, sir. So as Jammu was asking, if I define some private variable over here, which is, let us say, I have a private string, right, which is, let us say username, take the same thing, right, and let's say I want to create a getter setter for this username, okay, right, where I have my getter username and setter username. Now let's go back to page 4. Now let us see what actually we can do. Break it up. Now when I use this obj, right, you can see that I'm able to get my username, right, or I'm able to set my username. Set my username and get it up. The expression which is obj dot get username. Right? Now these are we can actually set and get it. Anyways, so this is what we are actually in Bean, but we haven't seen what exactly Bean can do now. Right? We are just in the same page, right? You can see that I'm in the same page now. I'm not going across, right? So Java beans are more powerful when we actually move on with the pages, right? Now if I run this, you can see that we can get everything we want from bean classes. You can see that I'm not using much of, yes, I can also create an object of that class, like rather using this, I can create if I create a direct object of that class, like this, which is, if I comment this out, and let us say I'm creating bean2 object, obj is equal to new class called bean2, right? bean2. Even if I go back and run this, you can see the same result. What is the difference? Difference will come when we actually move from this page across other pages. That is the difference we are showing. Which means if you're going to use this bean, right, as a session of page or as a session of session scopes and all, right, then your Java beans are going to be more powerful, right? So this is a very simple usage how you can actually use a bean class in the same page using the useBean attribute, right? Now let's extend this to the next pages and all, right? Now here, let me...
Before that I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah, where does this object came from? What is in that class name? Can you show it?
I'm sorry, where does this obj came from? This one? No, we are giving it as obj. It can be anything. Let us say I'm giving key1, right? Which means I'm naming the object. Now you can see where does this obj came from? So this obj is just variable name.
So you created instance there.
Exactly. So here, if it is key1, let us say, you have to use that instance name here. That's it.
Okay.
Fine. So if you, yeah, that is how it got actually. You can use any ID as such. ID is nothing but the variable name of the object class. Yes, okay.
Okay. So and one more inside that scriptlet int s is equal to tree1. We have given 25 and 75, right?
Yeah.
So instead of hard coding it there, can we take it from the user input?
Yes.
Put it there and then have those. How to take it from user input?
Okay. Let's create that way. Okay, fine. So you want to take it from user and you want to just
everything should be dynamic like
definitely we'll do that.
It should not be.
Definitely. So let us do that part. Okay.
Sriram,
Yes.
can you go to the bean tool Java once?
Sorry. Can you go to the B2? Okay. Yeah. Let's go on, Johnny. Hello.
Yeah. It's clear. Yeah, I was just.
Okay. Fine. Okay. Let me just moderate this. This is getter setters. This is variables, and these are methods which I have defined. Fine. Okay, so this was page 14, right? So let's do one thing. Now here, what she was asking is she want to parameterize this. She don't want to pass any values here. She want to parameterize. So we can do that. Now let us define two values, which is int. Let me call it as value1. Now guys, this is very important. The name whatever I'm going to give here is the key for a complete data transmission, right? Let us say I'm giving value1 is equal to 0 and I'll take it as value2 as a second one. Fine. Now for these two, let's write getters and setters. Let us not worry about username. Let me give you this usernames and all. Let us say this bean class is mainly intended to get sum of two numbers, and that two numbers should be dynamic. Right? Now here, let me just create a getter setters for these variables. Go to source, getter setters. Okay, and we have created getter setters variables. So let me just copy this over here and put it over here. Get this get sum and put it on. Right. Now we have get value 1, set value 1, get value 2, set value 2. Right. Now this is a simple bean we have written, and if you come back to this here, so let us remove this username and password and these things. Right. Now here what we are going to do, let us say I'm not allowing anything over here, which means I don't want to give any arguments, rather I want to use value 1 and value 2 here directly. I don't know where it is being mapped. Now here you can see get sum, we have to remove this. Right? That is the next step. Now create one more page. Let me create one more page from where we are going to get the values. JSP. Now let me take it as page 15, the JSP. Now this page is a starting page now for now. Right? Now here let us create a form. So action will be page 14.jsp. Right? So here let us create value 1 and let's give something called input type. You have text and name. So this name attribute should be same as, so this is where the actual bean class usage comes. Now whatever input you want to map directly with your bean, right? The name should be same as this. The variable whatever you are defining your bean class, that is a value 1. You want to map the value 1 over of this text box to this, right, directly, then you have to mention the same name here, right, which is value 1, right. Let me just break it up, and you have your value 2, take the input, type as text, and you have the name as the next one, which is value 2, right. And once this is done, let me just break twice and then create an input type as submit, and let's say value as go, right. So this is a simple JSP page you have created for a form. Now in my 14 page, so whenever I click on go, which means it will take a username, it will take a value 1, value 2, and it will come over here. It will actually create an object of bean, but how can we map that to direct values dynamically? I don't want to handle any query string again, right? If I am going to handle query string like request.get parameter, then what is the use of being here, right? Now we are going to use one more JSP signed action called JSP set property. The set property is something which is used to set some value property to a bean class. Now let us say I want to set all properties. So this property is called as a getter setters. Now remember guys, in some languages like .NET and all, right, they basically call getter setters as a variable properties. For value 1, there are two properties, get property and set property. For value 2, there are two properties, get property and set property, which is get value 2 and set value 2, right. So they are called as properties here. Set property, which property you want to set. Setting in the sense, whenever you get some query string from here to this part, right, what exactly you want to map. If you give the direct star, which means you are trying to map everything. If you have 100 different properties, those 100 different values, whatever you are getting, it will try to map all. You can also go for specific, we'll see specific one after we understand this part. That is your star. And the name here is which object you want to map. Now I want to map a current object, which is my current bean. Just take this ID and give it to here, which means you are actually trying to map all the properties for this object, which means internally it use for value 1 it will use set value, for value 2 it will use set value, and it will set the values. That is how it is going to set here, which is a set property, right. Now once this is done, then I'm calling my get sum. I'm not hard coding anything over here, you can see, right. It will map it automatically. Now let us run this page 15. Let me just compile this part. Go to servers, restart the server. Now let me restart the page 2. So here let me give page 15 then. So 14, 15, and take it as 15. So this is my page. Now let us say I'm giving some 25 and something like 95 here. When I click on go, you can see 120. You can see values are coming up, which is value 25 and value 95. I'm not handling anything in my page 14. I'm just setting everything to my values over here, and then I'm actually getting the things, right. Get sum, I just call get sum, which means before calling get sum itself, I have mapped everything to this, which means the value 1 over here, which is a key, got mapped directly to with this value, and value 2 got mapped directly to this using the setters of these two. And then when I say get sum after this, it is actually getting the sum of the current value of value and value, right. Now there is one thing very important. If you skip the name, right, which means here I just gave value 1e something, I just changed the name, right. Now let's go and see what else. Let me go back here, refresh this page, right. So let us say value 1 is some 100 and value 2 is 200, and I click on go, you'll see only 200. Why? Because it has mapped only value 2, right. It has mapped only value 2 and value 1 is 0. So that's why we get 200 plus 0 is 200. That's what we get. Yeah. So that is how you can actually, now if you want to see the data being populated before, right, let me just populate that too, so that you can understand in much better way. Now let us say here I have a break, taking this break over here, and the break over here. Now what I'm going to do here is, let me print the data, which is map data for value 1. So before actually giving that, let us just map it as expression is tree1 dot, we have get value 1. Same way, let me just copy, take it up here, just say map data for value 2 and get value 2, okay, where I am actually getting value. So now let us run the page 15. Let me just recompile the project, go back to this, and page 15.jsp, value 1 is some 900, value 2 is some 200, right? Click on it, right? You can see mapped value for value 1 is 0, right, and mapped value for 2 is 200. That is the difference, because mapped value, why it is 0, because it is value 1e. Now here itself let me change to value 1. When I click on enter, now you can see that value 1, whenever we actually change to value 1, which means this is my input I'm changing, right, immediately it became 900 and 200. So that is how it got mapped. And then whenever you get some, you can actually get some in this way, right? Yeah, now you can go on. You were asking something, Johnny? Save it.
Yeah, instead of property equal to star, if there are many methods, then can we give specific one?
Instead of, I didn't get that question. What is that, Johnny?
Property equal to star.
Okay.
We are giving property equal to star, right?
Yes. Okay.
Can we give something specific?
Yes, we can. I'm going to, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I'm going to, I'll take up that, okay? I'll get into that. Now here let us say, okay, so you guys understood till this part? Is that clear? Any questions still here, guys? So what is happening, what is mapping, any questions? And then I'll
no sure, it all is clear now.
Okay, now here let me create one more variable here, which is private string. Okay, let us take up the Johnny's question now. Private, let's take it as string. Let me call it as something like let's take it as username itself. Right? Now for this username, let me create a getter setter. Okay, so it created username and this for getter setter here. Now what we are going to do, so in my page 15 I am not sending any user, right? I am not sending any user, or let me create one input here. Let me call it as user this, but I don't want to map this as such, right? I don't want to map it, because if I am taking it star, it is actually mapping automatically, right? Let us see how we can actually map some values. Now user, let me call it as input. We have type, text, and we have name. Okay, initially let me take it as some different thing, which is rename. Okay? Basically, first let us see taking up the same thing, which is username first, okay? Whether it is mapping the things or not, okay? And then here let us say map value for the name, which is username. Let's take it up, which is get your username. Okay. Now till this part, let us see first. So break, and then we'll go for specific. Okay, data for username and this. Let me just clean this up. Let's go to 15 page. Right, we have user 12 something 100 and 200 and user, let us say I'm just giving something here. Click on go. Now you can see it is mapped. Okay, now here value 1, let me just remove that value 1 to value 1 itself, not E, right? So that we can keep it more clear. Yeah. So here you have 25, 200, right? That's perfect clear. Now this is something which we got from a directory, right? Now here you can create, let us say my username is not correct, which is, it is giving some user, and by default let us say I'm just giving as no name, something. Now if I go back and run this, refresh this, okay, let me recompile this project. Right? Value was 25, 200, and here let us say I'm just giving something. When I click on go, now you can see, how can you see? Okay. Oh, I didn't save it. Save it. Come on, man. Recompile. Okay. Go back here. Go back to page 15. Take some number here, and some value over here. Let me just give it as given something. Click on go. Now you can see no name. Right. Now let us see how we can actually map that manually. Right. Now here we know that we are going to get user, right? So here let us say, before setting anything, let us say I'm just taking a query string, reading a query string, okay, which is my string. Let us say uname something is equal to request dot get parameter, right? Let us say here you have taken a user, let us say user. Now I've got my username. Now let me create one more set property, which is my JSP standard action called set property. Property name here is, I have to take the same name, which is username here. Paste it over here, and I'm sorry, in a name property. This here itself, right? Here and here I have to give the name. Name is nothing but to which object you want to map, right? And we have one more attribute called value. In this value, I'm gonna assign my uname. This is how we have to assign. If you know the value of particular attribute, you can assign that, right? That is what happens. Now I'll also show one more thing which is also important, right? As of now, just check this out first, okay? Which is your uname is a uname, right? Now let me run this now. So this is how you can actually set the specific data of your property, of your being class. So let's go back and run 15 page, some value, here, click on go. Now you can see the data got mapped, right? Now here, what we did is we actually went one step ahead, even setting the value. If you don't want to set the value and you just want to give specific thing here, you can also do that. Let us say I want to map only value 1, right, from query string. You can do that. I'm just setting value 1, which means I'm not going to set anything called value 2 or username, anything. You can do that. When I do only value 1, which means my intention here is whenever query string comes up, right, if I don't give any value, right, obviously it will read from query string, right? Only value 1 will be mapped. Let's go and check that out. Page 15, we have 25 value 1, 200 second value, and some username. Click on go. Now you can see only value 1 got mapped, which is automatically from query string, and value 2, nothing happened. Why? Because we gave specific one here, and value 2 was 0, and the next one was 3. You can actually use the same property again for mapping your value 2 again. Right? Let's go back and see what happens. Enter value 1 is some 200, value 2 is some 300, and let's give something as 3. Right? Click on. Now you can see 200, 300, 3, and we got a sum. So these are we can actually play out with sessions. So any questions here till now? Was it clear?
Just one more. If you declare a variable and if you don't have a getter or setter, will it give an error?
It won't give an error. Okay, let us do that part. Yeah, I'll show you what happens. When you have private, let us say string it called as ID, right, is equal to some 0, right? So now I'm going to use this ID. I'm sorry, int, I mean int ID, right? So here what I'm going to do here is, let us say I'm going to set the property. You mean setting property or getting it from here?
I mean, we declare a variable, but we don't have a getter and setter for that variable.
Yes, okay. Let me just set.
I mean,
okay, I understood your question.
it's like a temporary variable or something.
Yes. Let us say I'm taking ID here, right? That is what you are talking about. Let us say tree1 here, and let me map something called value as some 20, right? And let us declare this map value for the ID. For ID is okay. We don't have this, but you can do dot here. You can see you're not getting that, right? Okay, so how can I print that ID? You cannot get how it is printing. No, don't worry. I can actually print that in GetSum. In GetSum, let us print that. This is out of, that is ID. Let's see how it is happening. Let's go back to page 15. Give some value here, give some value here, give some value here. Click on go. Right? You can see it gives ID. Cannot find information property. Fine, Johnny? Yeah? If you don't have properties for a variable which you are going to map into, it will give error. Right? Now here for this property, you have to mention your getter setters. Click on that. Okay. We got an ID now, which is getSend property of this ID. Let's go back, recompile this project. All the three conditions are very important. Unless you have that, you can't use bean. We give 15 here. Let me go to value, one more value. Okay, click on go. Now you have your ID. Okay, we have printed in here, right? You can see your ID here, right? This is 20 because we have set ID as 20. That's why. So I printed that in my GetSum, right? In my GetSum, I just printed that. So that's how we got it here. So this is something which is your page scope one by default. We just gave it a scope as page. Don't worry. Even if you remove this, right, it will be a page scope. By default, it is a page scope one which you are going to use. Right? Okay, so any questions till now? Right? Okay, so this is how we can actually use beans in order to, in the same way, right? So remember these things, guys, because we are going to use the same thing even in our struts, right? The bean class will also come in struts because bean class is a main component of a MVC component, MVC architecture. Right? We'll see how we can actually design an MVC architecture when we go to frameworks, right? Now here, the next thing, let us change it as a session scope. Let's see one thing which is mostly used in real time. Let us take it as a session scope and we'll see what happens. So let me create one more page here, which is new JSP file. Let me call it as page 16, right? Now in this page 16, so let me just write a very simple JSP bean again. JSP use bean ID. Let me take it as obj and class here is, let me take the same class and scope also. So I have to mention, okay, you are actually creating a bean, that's fine, but which object you want to assign. So I said session, which means it will assign a same object to this asset, right? Now here we'll see one more JSP standard action. Let us say, if you can see here, what I used to do, I used to take this object, right, and I used to get the values, right? Basically, you never do this. You never access any of the get values, or no, you should never use this in this way. So for your convenience, I have just taken get value, get username and all. But how we can actually get that is, again, as you have set property, you also have something called JSP get property. Oh, sorry, it is out of bean, right? Let me close bean here, which is your JSP something called get property, right? This property, let us say I want to get. So I want to get, let us say, value 1 property first. Let me just take value 1, and the name is from which object you want to get. I want to get from the current bean object. Yes. Right? This will give you your value 1. Let's take one at a time. Right? Now here in my page 14, let me create an anchor element and take it as go, and here let me make it as href as page 16.jsp. Right? Here's a page which is page 16.jsp. Let me compile this. Let's go back to page 15 now. We have a value 1, we have a value 2 as 200 and some username, right? Now when I click on go, right, to go to page 14, right, which is values are there, and when I click on go again, now you can see value became 0. Why? Value, oh, okay, I was using 3.1 here. Let me take the same object mapping here. Let me call it as 3.1. Let me recompile this project. Restart the server as such. Restart the browser. So here you have page 15. You have your value, you have your only value, you have taken a value here, click on go. Right? You have these things, and you click on go here. Right, now you can see the value. Okay, so your bean name should be same. Okay, now you can see I'm not mapping anything here. I'm not setting anything. I'm just taking the session and I'm actually maintaining the name over here. That's it, of certain class. Right, and you can actually get it. Now in this way you can actually get all the values you want, right? You have a value 2, you can get the value 2, right? You have something called user, right? You can get here username message, but you have to use a attribute name, property name as same as a variable you have here. Okay, that's right. Let's recompile this project. So restart the server. 15. Okay. So value is 200 and 300 and user is also. Click on go. So 200, 300, we have 5 here. Click on go. Right. Now you can see all the values being populated. So this is called as a bean. We're actually populating it across different things. Now you can see that I'm using the same class, which is the same software component, right, in multiple pages, which means I saved multiple data in one technical term called bean, right, which is a technical object, and I just gave session scope. Now this can go to any number of pages again, right? If you can go for one more page, let me call it as page 17.jsp, right? Let me take it here. Let me just copy the same thing over here because I'm gonna read it from session itself, right? Now in my 16, let me create an anchor element. Let's try for page 17.jsp, right? And let's just say go here, right? Rebuild the project and basically restart your server if needed. Restart my browser. Okay, so let me call it as page 15. So give some value 200 and 200 again. User history. Click on go. So now this is in the 14 page, which is 200, 203, 14. Click on this. We came to 16 page, 200, 203. Click on go again. Now you can see we are using the same class bean, and we were able to create a multiple things. Right? So this is how you can actually use your beans, Java beans in Java. Right? Maximum possible things we have seen. This is how you can actually get into different beans in Java. Right? Any doubts still here, guys?
Instead of
Yeah, go on.
Usually when we go from send the data from one page to another, we mostly hide it in sessions, right?
Yes.
Hide that data.
Yeah.
So what do we have to do to hide the data on the next page?
I mean, next page in the sense, I didn't get that. Okay, we hide.
So we went from page 16 to page 17.
No, the statement which you used just now, Ujjwala, hiding is not the right term. What we are doing here is we are persisting the data across pages.
Okay. Yeah, but means we want the data to another page, but we just don't want to show it on that page. That's what I want to mean.
You don't show it. Okay, don't see. If you don't want to show it, right? You can just skip this, and I can. So here you can see that when I say 2 1, I'm just using it as a value, right? If you don't want to show, and if you want to use it directly, just go for some scriptlet. If you want to use that inside, right? Let us say I'm just taking string user something is equal to, just say it as your 3 1 dot get username. That's it. So this will not show, right? You're actually using it for some purpose, right? If you, I just did this part. If you want to get the value of that, then you can do that, right? That is what I just done. Okay.
Okay.
It will actually show the value, get property, right?
Okay.
Fine. So any more question? Yeah, Johnny, you were asking something.
basically saying like instead of giving it as a property, we can use it to use the getter, right? Yeah, that's what you have shown now. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So we can use that. But I just want to let you know that okay, there is one property called get property. Yeah, that's fine. You can use with your convenience and requirement you want. Fine. Okay then. So let's wind up here. Okay. So if